Is America a house on fire? Yeah, let's talk about that.
Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to The Brian Nichols Show.
Well, hey there, folks. Brian Nichols here on The Brian Nichols Show, and thank you for joining us on, of course, another fun-filled episode. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you live from our Stratus IP studios here in lovely Eastern Indiana. Don't let cyber attacks or outdated business technology put your company at risk. Schedule your one-on-one consultation with yours truly at briannicholsshow.com/Stratus IP. Well, the past 3 years have really put Americans at each other's throats, and we've really seen the tensions increase and increase and increase to the point in this post-pandemic society. You go talk to the Biden administration, they'll tell you, no, we're not past a post-pandemic society. Please give us the emergency powers still. But that's a conversation for a different day. But you look at where we are today as a society, and yes, we are absolutely divided. Trust is at an all-time low. We are, in fact, a house on fire. And talking about that brand new book that he has just authored, joining us on The Brian Nichols Show from Free the People, Matt Battaglia. Welcome to The Brian Nichols Show.
Thank you for having me on. Yep, right here. I got my copies in this past week from a printer. Very exciting. So, yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for That's a great intro.
Thank you. And glad to have you here. And we're looking forward to digging into, yes, your brand new book, House on Fire. I'm excited to hear about it. But before we get there, do us a favor, Matt, introduce yourself to the Brian Nichols Show audience and what brought you all the way from talking. I guess we have to go back, folks. You were recording me apparently back when I was over on Matt Kibbe's Free the People. We don't remember that though, because it was pre-COVID. Well, no, it was right in the thick of COVID time. Excuse me. So memories are all shot. But now you're here writing a brand new book. What's got you from there to here?
The graphic novel is how I processed those past 3 years, and it's been basically I put all my thoughts on what was going on into this comic. So yeah, I've been working at Free the People for, I guess, since we started Free the People. And I produce a bunch of documentaries there, and I produce Kibbe's show, Kibbe on Liberty, which you can find on Blaze TV and our YouTube, Free the People. But I've been drawing comics for forever, and House on Fire is my first solo graphic novel. And yeah, it was really, it's what I did under COVID.
Some folks gained 40 pounds. Yep. Other folks got divorced. Other folks just had complete mental breakdowns. You wrote a book. Pretty darn cool. And not just a book, a graphic novel. And before we get into the actual book itself, let's kind of go back to Free the People. Because I want to take a second and talk about the great stuff that Free the People does. Because, I mean, I was on Matt's show, as I mentioned, Kibbe on Liberty, back in, it aired January 6th, 2021. You can guess that my episode got usurped by something. But with that being said, you look at all the great things that Matt and the organization are doing, from telling phenomenal stories like the story of our awesome Congressman Thomas Massey and him going off the grid, to stories of Black persecution and criminal justice. And we have to tell these stories, right? If you look at how people connect to issues, it's through stories. It's not through facts. It's not through figures. It's not through good ideaing them to death. And that's why I'm so excited for what you guys do at Free the People, because this is stuff that actually gets people to pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for mentioning Off the Grid. That was the first project that I long project that I directed and edited, and it still, I think people still look at it today. Massey still always tweets it out, and I think it holds up. There's a lot of stuff we learned since then, but I recommend people check that out. I also did a documentary about a restaurant slash bar in New York under COVID called All We Have. And I view House on Fire as sort of, it's very much spiritually in line with that. The Schnitzel House, which is a restaurant in New York, in Brooklyn, we just kind of profiled all of the troubles that they were going through at that time. And I think a lot of people are trying to memory hole that. And so I think it was really important to have a visual record of what went on. And so I recommend people watch that. I think it goes well with House on Fire.
Well, we tell this to the folks here in the Brian Nichols Show audience all the time, and say it with me now, folks. If you don't set narratives, somebody else is going to. So we don't respond to narratives, we set them, right? So when we look at why it is so important for us to tell this story, you're 100% right. It is because there are so many folks out there who are memory holding this or just trying to rewrite history entirely. So if it's not on us to go out and actually speak the truth of what actually happened, who's the ones that are going to do it? So that's why we're doing what we're doing here at the show, and thankfully that's what you guys are doing over at Free the People. So let's go ahead and talk about this brand new book, House on Fire. So Matt, give us the context of the book. You said that it is, basically your experience as you've gone through these 3 years of insanity, which we've all unfortunately had to experience along the way with you. Talk to us though about the book itself. Give us some groundwork, and obviously, the energy that you've put into this. I'm sure it speaks to what a lot of us have felt over the past 3 years as well.
I wish I could say I could describe the book better than you already have. But it, plot wise, it's a simple book. It's a man trying to get medicine for his wife in a post apocalyptic kind of world. There's a lot of things that I think people who were awake at all during the past 3 years probably will recognize. And I kind of tweak things to maybe crank everything up to 11, but hopefully it's a cautionary tale. It I think does what most good sci-fi should do, which is that it takes something that we're living through and, fictionalizes it enough to make it, at least to make it a story, but hopefully contains some lessons for folks.
So let's start off the story. Now, we don't have to spoil too much because we want people to still obviously buy the book, which we will give links to the book in the show notes, folks. So make sure you head over there. But do us a favor. Give us the context. It's in a post-COVID world. Husband's trying to get medicine for the wife. So are we in this dystopian future where society is collapsing, a la almost feeling like The Last of Us or The Walking Dead, or is it even worse?
No, I think we're maybe 10 years off in this book from The Last of Us or The Walking Dead. Like, we were not there yet. This is the intermediate step, maybe.
Even worse, because there's more people around that can cause more mayhem.
Yeah, unfortunately, government and House on Fire still exists. So there's I think to me it's the book is a emotionally driven book. It's there's the world building exists, but I'm not getting caught up on all the technicalities of what's going on. You said COVID, I didn't say COVID. If you can read it, and if you would like to think it's smallpox, go right ahead. The disease itself doesn't matter. The thing that I was working out for myself while making this book is, well, what are the things that I'm most afraid of that are going to stick around after this, after sort of government lockdowns and the response to COVID. And so that's really what I was kind of working out in my mind was, how much worse can this get? And are we going to be stuck on this cycle forever? And so I tried to run this cycle down a few more times and tried to fictionalize it. The thing that always was difficult for me was every time I'd sort of start working on the book, something new would happen that would then make whatever I was putting in the book just completely true. And so it was always difficult.
You're like, I don't want to write a biography of
right,
or like a history book that's not even the history yet. You're at this point you're Nostradamus, more or less, Matt. We're gonna be as blunt as we can there. But I mean, talk to us about the book. Where we are in the context of society. You mentioned 10 years or so before the end of society. So what does government look like? What does society look like? How do interactions between, are we a free people? I guess I was gonna say between free people, but are we a free people 10 years before the collapse of society? What does that look like?
So to me, what's funny, and the thing that I was teasing out and now having over the course of the past few years, I lived in the city, and now we just recently moved out of the city into the suburbs. And so one of the main themes in the book is sort of the guy going from, he's, you know, leaving his rural house and heading into the city in order to acquire a drug of some kind. And the sort of and none of this is all background that was in my head, so people can read into the book whatever they'd like. But the thing that I was playing out in my head is that it always feels to me like the cities are, you know, will hoard certain kinds of supplies. But in the book, he's making a drug exchange, and I won't spoil what he is using. But my thought is that cities can only grow certain kinds of things, and they can't grow other things. So there's playing off of these economies of you know, as we're seeing today with all the supply chain issues and things like that. One of the things that we interviewed Massey a bunch of times during the sort of the thick of the pandemic, and he was always worried about food supply stuff. And it took a while for his concerns to finally hit, but they did finally hit. You know, beef prices went up and everything. You can't find eggs right now, or you're spending a lot of money for eggs. So again, I was just basically taking a lot of what I was seeing and playing it out further. There's a whole segment and encounter that's based around sort of the show your papers to get in, you know? So to me, I think that the conflicts that we're seeing today are between rural and urban settings. And, you know, the book spawned out of, I did a road trip from where I was living in Philly to Texas, where my dad's family is. And my dad and I drove RV down to Texas in the sort of midst of 2020, and the stark difference between how Philadelphia handled things. And then as the further and further you got away from city centers and seeing how different life was, that's where the book really started taking shape in my head.
Whoo, man, that's hitting home here, eh, folks? Because now the audience has heard me rant and rave for 3 years, because I too lived in Philadelphia there, Matt. I was actually over. Yes, I was in West Philadelphia.
Okay.
And whoo, man, yeah, you're right. The city was just completely ass backwards compared to what you're like a functioning society it should be. And then as soon as you go into more rural areas, i.e. I visited Newcastle, Indiana, when we had our We're Libertarians pool party out here, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, people are acting normal? There's no masks everywhere. People aren't afraid of everybody. People aren't making everybody stand 6 feet apart and screaming at each other, or making each other wear plexiglass face shields. Like, oh, you mean you can drive down the Ben Franklin Parkway and you're going to see people there in Philadelphia completely masked up, even though they're outside? The insanity, Matt. It drove me crazy. And then you couple that with the businesses closing, the rise in violent crime, and especially this was the part that scared me and why, frankly, ended up moving out of Philadelphia, was because it was completely random violent crime. It's like little kid leaving McDonald's gets hit with stray bullet, or lady sitting on front porch with family gets hit with stray bullet. Like, there was no rhyme or reason for it.
Or you get out of your car and someone, you know, smacks you up beside the head and jumps in your car and steals it.
Which is your personal experience, correct? Yeah. Tell us about that. Now, tell us about that really quick, just because, like, I don't think some folks understand truly. Now, this is to our more, I'd say our country rural friends who they did not understand the context of what life not only was like during COVID, but also how bad things have gotten since COVID. So please just help give some more context so people aren't just thinking it's Brian ranting and raving about Philadelphia.
It's funny because, since you lived in Philly, the sort of main location that's in the book that he goes to is there's that abandoned, it's not abandoned anymore, power plant outside of Fishtown.
Oh my God. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
It's condos, but, but you know, at the time it was still abandoned. And so that's a location in the book. And so the book is very much, you know, set in Philly, but it's never named. And so, yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why we got out is that people are just randomly carjacking people. Like, and I, you know, it happened to me. They didn't take my car. They didn't, you know, they couldn't get it. I locked it because I'm whatever. And I was on the phone with my 95-year-old grandpa he, you know, takes hours and hours to get him off the phone. And so I wasn't paying attention because he's yapping away. And so then, you know, so they, you know, I got hit, and then I turned around and they had run away because they couldn't get in the car. But, now they're doing it at gunpoint in the neighborhood. And this isn't a nice neighborhood, technically. Like, it's not, people are, it's pretty, gentrified, I guess is the honest way to put it. And so I guess that makes it obviously an easy target, I suppose. But
not only is it gentrified, but it's also some of the most progressive elitists amongst the Philadelphia class of folks there, because I had, in-laws who lived in that area, and they were very progressively left. But even they, after originally when you got your COVID vaccine, that was like your green card to go back into functioning society. And they're like, oh, well, we were good people. We got our shots. So now we can go out into society and walk our dog without masks on. And they just got the dirtiest looks. And they're like, but we got vaccinated. And people were like, well, you're not virtue signaling hard enough. That is absolutely that type of person. So, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't mean to say like it could happen to a better person in that area, but I mean, you vote what you get for, I guess.
I guess it's crazy. I mean, my sister still lives in the neighborhood, and like one of her friends got her, cause they can now hack like a certain, like, I guess certain models of Kias, like you can hack without a key, and someone she knows had their car stolen. It was found, just littered with needles and everything and completely torn apart. So it just, but I you talk to anyone living in almost any city in America right now, they're experiencing the same things. So again, I hate to say it, but I was initially going to take out, like, there's a violent altercation that sort of is the linchpin of House on Fire. And I was initially thinking I wasn't going to have it in there. And then what happened to me happened. And I was like, well, I already jinxed. If it already I can't, me drawing it already happened. So if I was worried, I was taking it out because I was worried things were coming true too much. And then it was like, well, okay, I didn't commit it to paper yet, and it happened. So now I can commit it to paper, and it's not going to happen a second time, I guess.
Better not happen a second time. Oh my God. Well, and here's a scary question, right, Matt? And let's make it really real. Like that. Now, for folks who are hearing that, and they're like, this sounds like a dystopian, like third world country. It is this awful place named Philadelphia. Well, just how bad is it, folks? By the way, they used pictures of Philadelphia, specifically, I think it was Fairmount. I could be wrong. I think it was Fairmount. Was it Fairmount? I got to double check. But anyways, they had a bunch of people who were all just drugged out on the side of the street. And Mexico is using that as a don't do drugs ad, right? That's how bad things are in Philly. But I digress. Talking about where things could be, though, right? Like folks who are hearing this and they're like, this is worst case scenario I can imagine. No, let's talk about House on Fire. How far is Philadelphia, or, just in that example where, we're showing where things are, to where you are in House on Fire? How many years, how much social decay, how much civil unrest are we away from where you end up in the book?
So are you saying that 10 years is too optimistic?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I guess we'll have to reconvene after 2024's election, huh?
That's the I guess that's the that's why I had to make it, is because it one of the things that I think about as sort of, this might sound a little, it's going to sound pretentious, but whatever, I'm going to go here, is that the responsibility of artists is to kind of take in the times that you're living in and attempt to hold them to account, or to reckon with them in some way. Thinking back to even post 9/11, think about how much art was made grappling with 9/11, grappling then with the war on terror, grappling with the sort of the Patriot Act, things like that. There was a ton of stuff being made that was dealing with it, commenting on it in creative ways, in different ways. And I haven't seen any of that about COVID. I haven't seen enough of it, at least. I mean, so to me, I had to make something dealing with this, because it's affected everything in a way that I don't know that people appreciate. I mean, I would assume listeners of this show do, but and people in our world do. However, I thought that with House on Fire, I think it's a very accessible graphic novel. I'm not telling you what to think or anything in it. This is just a story about what could happen, I guess. And I hope, the way that I formed it is I want people to be able to read it and reflect maybe on what the past few years have been for them, and hopefully come to some conclusions of their own. I obviously have my thoughts about it, but I just want to give people some sort of space to think about it, about what happened. And I don't see a lot of art doing that. I remember, I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. I'm originally from New Jersey, so whatever. But The Rising and Magic were great records. His Magic record dealt with and commented on, the horrors of the endless war that just ended. When did we pull out of Iraq? Was that last year? Was that this year? I don't remember anymore. The timeline's messed up. But like, how there has been nothing said about these things for so long, and that's how the people in power and government gets away with murder. I mean, it's literally murder. That's what they do. So if we're not creating art and creating pieces that will outlive us a little bit, to say like, hey, this is a warning, I think we're kind of derelict in our duty. So
amen. Well, and that goes towards exactly where I was going to start things off as we wrap things up for our final thoughts. And that is, we all went through this over the past 3 years, right? This isn't one thing it's isolated to a specific country, specific state, heck, specific county, right? This is literally everybody in the world experienced COVID in some way, shape, or form. And I think it's indicative on us, exactly as you said. We have to, Matt, enter into these conversations that people have been having, whether it's internally with their friends or their families or their political groups that they're a part of, but to then tell the story of not just what happened but what could happen, right? Where this road that we've been on together could lead us if we continue down this path. We don't want your book to become a history book. We want your book to stay fiction. So how do we do that? Well, I think we do that by making sure people are aware, right? A lot of folks, one thing I love about what I've been doing over on YouTube with the YouTube shorts is that I've been trying to take things that are sometimes hard to understand or things that people just don't they don't know, and present it in a quick, easy way that somebody can go, oh, really? It makes you think, right? That's what this book I'm hoping will do, is get people to stop and think. Even the folks that would be, I would say, on the opposite side of the COVID conversation. And I know you don't mention COVID. I'll mention COVID because I think it's that important to talk about. But like I think we have to bring everybody to the table and at the very least try and encourage the conversation. Now, will the conversation happen? I don't know. I'm trying to make it happen. I've had a lot of friends who have, given me many hand signals, one finger in particular, because of that. However, I'm still trying. I'm still trying to get people to wake up. But I know that when I do that, there are folks who are going to shut down, but there are folks who are paying attention. There are folks who are consistently watching and are starting to have that chink in the armor cracked more and more and more as they start to say, wait, this doesn't make sense. And they're seeing how bad things are getting. So that's my final thoughts. Matt, what do you have for us for your final thoughts? And also, where can folks go ahead, continue the conversation, and also go ahead and grab their own copy of World on Fire?
Okay.
House on Fire. Sorry.
That's okay. Well,
the world is on fire, just so we're on the same page.
It's a global book. I guess to just add on to what you were just saying, it's also what's really important about what we do at Free the People is, again, trying to make these ideas of liberty accessible to people in new ways. Again, I highly recommend watching All We Have. I think it's a really powerful documentary. And it's one of those pieces that reminds people of what occurred. And check out the rest of our stuff, because it's, we're trying to make ideas accessible to people. House on Fire is available. I think it's out in comic book shops March 18th, and then it is on sale in bookstores everywhere March 28th, I want to say. However, you can pre-order it right now. Run to your Barnes & Noble. You can go to Amazon. You can, honestly, if you Google House on Fire, Battaglia comic book, a billion options will pop up to as places to order the book. You can get it at Target. So, if you're like me and you are constantly running out to buy diapers, you can just add it to your Target cart. And so when you go and get other household things, you can pick up a great comic book. So yeah, you can get it anywhere. Check my other work out, obviously on Free the People, freethepeople.org, our YouTube channel, and my website is mattjbat.com. I think that's also pretty easy to remember. But please buy the book. It's really important to me, and I think that it's. I hope it's important to you. It's short, so you can read it pretty quickly, I think. But I put a lot of effort into it, and I hope it's a rewarding experience. So
amen. No, well, thank you for doing that. Right. And we've talked about this many a time here in the show in recent weeks and recent months. We have to have these cultural conversations because everybody else is. And if we're not, then who are we to think that we can just change the game by doing it differently? Oh, we libertarians, goodness, we can be so silly sometimes. But yes, no, Matt, it is so important for folks to be doing what you're doing. So thank you. And folks, please do me a favor. If you got some value from today's episode, well, two things. Obviously, go ahead and share today's episode, blah, blah, blah. But number two, this is the most important thing. Please go buy House on Fire, not World on Fire, though that does sound like a good sequel book to House on Fire. So I'll get my royalties hopefully in the mail in 2028, pending societal collapse. We shall see, Matt. But otherwise, folks, yes, please, House on Fire. Link will be in the show notes. Now, I know 99% of you are listening to the program here on the audio version of the show. Do me a favor, click the artwork in your podcast catcher. It'll bring you over to today's episode over on briannicholsshow.com, where you can find all those aforementioned links. Plus, you can find the transcript of today's episode, the video version of today's episode, which can be found over on Rumble, on Odyssey, and over on YouTube. But all I ask is when you're there, do me a favor, hit that little subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss a single time we go live. And with that being said, the conversation, if you're joining us here on YouTube, is not over. It will continue right here as I will be stopping by the Kibbe on Liberty studios there over in Washington, D.C. way back in 2021. You can check out our conversation. I say our conversation. It was yours truly sitting down with Matt Kibbe, where we discussed how we can use storytelling to help sell liberty. You want to go ahead and learn how to do that? Click the episode right here. I will see you over there. But if you're here in the podcast version, please, thank you. I don't know. I really appreciate you for doing all you do, folks. You guys are what keeps the lights on. So just thank you for everything you guys do. That being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show for Matt Battaglia. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.